Torah Life Ministries, come out of the world.
Hello everybody, Shabbat Shalom. This is Paul with Torah Life Ministries, and we are going to be reading the Torah reading for today, this Shabbat, and it's going to be Genesis 28:10 to 32, chapter 3. We're already up to 28 chapters through the book of Genesis since we started the Torah reading this year, and we're going to be reading this today here. We're reading this every Sabbath, and hopefully you've already read it. This is going to be a second reading for you, and we can discuss some of the things in the comments if you have any comments about what we've read. But we're starting off here in Genesis 28, verse 10. And Jacob went out from Beersheba and went towards Haran. And he came on a place and stayed the night there. For the sun had gone, and he took stones of the place and placed them at his head, and he lay down in that place. And he dreamed, and behold, a staircase was placed on the earth, its top reaching to the heavens. And behold, the messengers of Elohim were going up and going down on it. And behold, Yah stood above it and said, I am Yah, the Elohim of your father Abraham, and the Elohim of Isaac. The land of which you are lying, I will give to you and to your seed. And your seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and you shall spread to the west, to the east, to the north, and to the south. And all the families of the earth shall be blessed in you and in your seed. Verse 15. And behold, I will be with you and will guard you in every place in which you may go, and will bring you back on this land. For I will not forsake you until I have surely done that which I have spoken to you. And Jacob awakened from his sleep and said, Surely Yah is in this place, and I did not know. And he was afraid and said, How fearful is this place? This is nothing except the house of Elohim, and this is the door to heaven. And Jacob started up early in the morning and took the stone which he had placed at his head, and he placed it as a pillar, and he poured oil on the top of it. And he called the name of that place Bethel, and yet the name of the city was first Luz. And Jacob vowed a vow, saying, If Elohim is with me, and keeps me in this way which I am going, and gives to me bread to eat and clothing to wear, and I return in peace to the house of my father, then Yah shall be my Elohim. And this sandstone which I have placed as a memorial pillar shall become the house of Elohim. And all which you shall give me, I will tithe 1/10 to you. That was the continuation of chapter 28 of the book of Genesis. Now we're going to go to chapter 29 of the book. And I will say in chapter 28, we're looking at Jerusalem here. And we're looking at the place, possibly some people could suggest, was where the future temple was to be built. And had a lot of significance. The exact place was not a mistake that it was picked there. But there's a little bit or a lot of controversy about the different places and the spots of the temple. But this is one of the considerations. So chapter 29 starts. And Jacob lifted his feet and went to the land with the land of the sons of the east. And he looked, and behold, a well in the field. And behold, 3 flocks of sheep were lying by it. For from that well they watered the flocks, and the stone on the mouth of the well was great. And all the flocks were usually gathered there, and they rolled the stone off the mouth of the well, and watered the sheep, and replaced the stone of the mouth of the well to its place. And Jacob said to them, My brothers, from where are you? And they said, We are from Haran. And he said to them, Do you know Laban, the son of Nabal? And they said, We know him. And he said to them, Well-being to him. And they said, Well-being. And behold, his daughter Rachel is coming with the sheep. And he said, Behold, the day is still high. It is not time to gather the livestock. Water the sheep and go feed them. And they said, We are not able until the flocks are gathered. And they roll the stone from the mouth of the well. Then we water the sheep. He still was speaking with them when Rachel came with the sheep, which were her father's, for she was feeding them. And it happened when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, brother to his mother, the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, Jacob came near and rolled the stone from the mouth of the well and watered the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother. And Jacob kissed Rachel and lifted up his voice and wept. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's brother, and that he was the son of Rebekah. And she ran and told her father. And it happened when Laban heard the report of Jacob, his sister's son, he ran to meet him and embraced him and kissed him, and he took him to his house. And he told Laban all these things. And Laban said to him, Truly, you are bone of my flesh. And he lived with him a month of days. And Laban said to Jacob, Are you not my brother? And should you serve me for nothing? Tell me, what shall be your wages? That was verse 15. We're up to verse 16. And Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. And the eyes of Leah were weak, and Rachel was beautiful of form, and beautiful of appearance. And Jacob loved Rachel, and said, I will serve you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter. And Laban said, It is better for me to give her to you than to give it to another man. Live with me. And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they were in his eyes like a few days in his love for her. And Jacob said to Laban, Give me my wife, for my days are completed, and let me go into her. And Laban gathered all the men of the place, and made a feast. And it happened in the evening, he took his daughter, Leah, and brought her to him, and he went into her. And Laban gave to her Zilpah, his slave girl, to his daughter Leah, as a slave. And it happened in the morning, behold, she was Leah. And he said to Laban, What have you done to me? Did I not serve with you for Rachel? And why have you tricked me? And Laban said, It is not done this way in our place, to give the younger before the firstborn. Fulfill the week of this one, and we will also give you the other one, for the service which you will serve with me yet another 7 years. And Jacob did so, and he fulfilled the week of this one, and he gave him his daughter Rachel to him for a wife. And Laban gave his slave girl Bilhah to his daughter Rachel, to her for a slave girl. And he also went in to Rachel, and he also loved Rachel more than Leah. And he served with him yet another 7 years. And Yah saw that Leah was hated, and he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. And Leah conceived and bore a son, and called his name Reuben. And she said, Surely Yah has looked in my affliction, for now my husband will love me. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, Surely Yah has heard that I am hated, and has given me this one to me also. And she called his name Simon. And she conceived again and bore a son. And she said, Now this time my husband will be joined to me, because I have borne to him 3 sons. So his name was called Levi. And she conceived again and bore a son. And she said, This time I will praise Yah. So she called his name Judah. And she ceased from bearing. That was chapter 30. And now we're going to get to chapter 31 as we're reading the Torah reading for this week. And Rachel saw that she did not bear to Jacob. Rachel was jealous of her sister, and she said to Jacob, "Give me my sons, and if there is none, I shall die." And Jacob's anger glowed against Rachel. And he said, "Am I in Elohim's place, who has kept you from the fruit of the womb?" And she said, "Behold, my servant Bela. Go into her and let her bear. On my knees, ye let me be built up from her, me also." And she gave a slave girl Bela to him for a wife, and Jacob went into her. And Bela conceived and born a son to Jacob. And Rachel said, "Elohim has judged and has heard my voice, and has given me a son." So she called his name Dan. And Bela, Rachel's slave girl, conceived again, and bore a second son to Jacob. And Rachel said, "With struggle of Elohim I have struggled with my sister. I have now prevailed." And she exalted his name Naphtali. She called his name Naphtali. Verse 9. And Leah saw that she had ceased from bearing, and she took Zilpah, her slave girl, and gave her to Jacob for a wife. And Leah's slave girl Zilpah bore a son to Jacob. And Leah said, "With fortune." She called his name Gad. And Zilpah, Leah's slave girl, bore a second son to Jacob. And Leah said, "In my happiness for the daughters shall call me happy." And she called his name Asher. And the days of the wheat harvest, Reuben went out and found mandrakes in the field, and he brought them to his mother Leah. And Rachel said to Leah, "Please give to me from the mandrakes of your son." And she said to her, "Is your taking my husband a little thing? Will you also take my son's love apples?" And Rachel said, "So he shall be with you tonight for your son's mandrakes." And Jacob came in from the field at evening, and Leah went to meet him, and she said, "You must come in to me, for surely I have hired you with my son's mandrakes." And he lay with her during the night. And Elohim listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore a fifth son to Jacob. And Leah said, "Elohim has given me hire. I gave my slave girl to my husband," and she called his name Issachar. And Leah conceived again and bore a sixth son to Jacob. And Leah said, "Elohim has given me a good present. This time my husband will live with me, because I have borne 6 sons to him." And she called his name Zebulun. And afterwards she bore a daughter, and she called her name Dinah. And Elohim remembered Rachel, and Elohim listened to her, and opened her womb. And she conceived and bore a son, and she said, "Elohim has taken away my reproach." And she called his name Joseph, saying, "May Yah add to another son, add to me another son." And it happened when Rachel had borne Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, "Send me away so I may go to my own place and to my own land. Give my wives and my children for whom I have served you, and let me go, for you know my service with which I have served you." And Laban said to him, "Please, if I have found favor in your eyes, stay. I have seen the omens. Also, Yah has blessed me because of you." And he said, "Set your wages, and I will give it." And he said to him, "You know how I have served you, and what your livestock has become with me. For little was yours before my presence, and it has spread out into a host. And Yah has blessed you at my foot. And now, when shall I work for my house I also?" In verse 31. And he said, "What shall I give you?" And Jacob said, "You shall not give me anything. If you will do this thing for me, I will remain. I will feed your flock and keep it. I will pass among all your flock today. taking from there every speckled and spotted sheep, and every black sheep among the lambs. Also, the spotted and speckled goats, these shall be my wages. And my righteousness shall testify for me in the day to come, when you come in about my wages before your face. Everyone that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and the black among the lambs, it is stolen with me. And Laban said, Yes, if it is so, let it be as you speak. We're up to 35, chapter 35, verse 35. And he turned in that day all the striped and spotted lambs, and all the speckled and spotted goats, every one which had white, and every black one among the lambs. And he gave them into the hands of his sons. And he put 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob was feeding the remaining flocks of Laban. And Jacob took for himself rods of the flesh white poplar tree, and the almond and the plane tree. And he peeled the white strips in them, laying bare the white on the rods. And he set the rods which he had peeled by the by the water throws where the flocks came to drink across from the flocks. And they were in heat when they came to drink. And the flocks were in heat before the rods, and the bore stripped speckled and spotted offspring. And Jacob separated the lambs, and he set the faces of the flock towards the striped, and every black one in the flocks of Laban. And he put his own droves in them by themselves, and he did not put them with the flock of Laban. And it happened that whenever the strong flocks conceived, Jacob placed a rod before the eyes of the flocks before the throws, that they might conceive by the rods. And the flock being feeble, he did not set them, and usually it happened that the weak were for Laban, and the strong for Jacob. And the man increased very much, and many flocks were his, and slave girls, and male slaves, and camels, and donkeys. So that was chapter 30, and now we go to chapter 31. And he heard the words of the sons of Laban, saying, Jacob has taken away all that which was to our father, and from that which was to our father he has gotten all the wealth. And Jacob saw on the face of Laban, and behold, it was not towards him as before. And Yah said to Jacob, Go back to the land of your father and to your kindred, and I will be with you. And Jacob sent and called for Rachel and for Leah to come to the field to his flocks. And he said to them, I see your father's face, that it is not towards me as before, but the Elohim of my father has been with me. And you know that with all my power I have served your father. And your father has changed me and has changed my wages, or has cheated me and has changed my wages 10 times. And Elohim has not let him do evil to me. And if he said this, the speckled shall be your wages, then all the flocks bore speckled. And if he said, the striped shall be your wages, then all the flocks bore stripes. And Elohim has taken away the livestock of your father and given them to me. We're up to verse 10. And it happened, at the time the flock was in heat, I lifted up my eyes, and I saw in a dream, and behold, the rams keeping on the flock were striped, speckled, and spotted. And the messenger of Elohim spoke to me in a dream, Jacob, and I said, Here I am. And he said, Lift up your eyes with me. Well, he said, Lift up your eyes and see all the rams leaping in the fields. They are striped, speckled, and spotted. For I have been all that Laban is do. I have seen all that Laban is doing to you. So, verse 13. I am the El of Bethel. There where you anointed the pillar, where you vowed to vow to me. Now rise up and go out of the land, and go back to the land of your kindred. And Rachel and Leah answered and said to him, Is there yet to us a portion, an inheritance in the house of our father? Are we not counted strangers by him, for he has sold us, and selling he has sold us for silver? For all the wealth which Elohim has taken from our father, it is for us and for our sons. And now all that which Elohim has said to you to do. And Jacob arose and set his sons and his wives on camels. And he drove all the livestock, and he took all the goods which he had gotten, livestock of his property, which he had gotten in Aram, to come to his father Isaac, to the land of Canaan. And Laban went to share his sheep. And Rachel stole the teraphim idols which were her father's. We're up to verse 20. And Jacob deceived the heart of Laban and the Syrian, for he did not tell him that he was about to flee. And he and all that was to him fled, and rose up and crossed over the river, and set his face to Mount Gilead. And on the third day Laban was told that Jacob had fled. And he took his brothers with him, and pursued him 7 days' journey, and overtook him in the mountain of Gilead. And Elohim came to Laban, the Syrian, in a dream of the night, and said to him, Watch out for yourself, that you do not speak with Jacob from the good to evil. And Laban overtook Jacob, and Jacob had pitched his tent at the mount, and Laban was with his brothers, had pitched his tent at Mount Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, What have you done? And you have deceived my heart, and have taken my daughters like captives of the sword. Why did you hide so as to flee, and have deceived me, and have not told me? I would have sent you away with rejoicing, and with music, with tabret, and with harp. And you have not let me kiss my sons and my daughters. Now you have been foolish to do this. Verse 29. It is in the power of my hand to do to you harm. But the Elohim of your father spoke to me last night, saying, Watch out for yourself that you do not speak with Jacob from good to evil. And now surely you have gone because you have longed after your father's house. Why have you stolen from my gods? And Jacob answered and said to Laban, Because I was afraid, for I said, Lest be forced to you to take your daughters from me. With whomever you do find your gods, he shall not live before our brothers here. See for yourself what is with me, and take it to you. For Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. And Laban went into Jacob's tent, and into Leah's tent, and into the tent of the 2 slave girls, and he did not find. And he went out of Leah's tent, and came to Rachel's tent. And Rachel had been taken the household items, and put them into a camel's sack, and she sat on them, and Laban felt around all the tent, but did not find them. And she said to her father, let no anger be in the eyes of my master, for I am not able to rise before you, before your face, for the way of the woman is to me. And he searched for and did not find the household idols. And Jacob was angry and argued with Laban. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, what is my transgression? What is my sin that you have boldly pursued me? For you have felt around all my articles. What have you found from all the articles of your house? Set it here before my brothers and your brothers, and let them decide between the two of us. We're up to verse 38. And now I was with you 20 years. Your ewes and your she-goats have not failed to bear, and I have not eaten the rams of your flock. I did not bring to you the mangled, I replaced it. From my hand you exacted it. That's stolen by day, and that should be stolen by night. I was there by day in the heat, consumed me, and cold by night, and my sleep fled from my eyes. Now I have been 20 years in your house. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters and 6 years for your flock. And you have changed my wages 10 times. Except the Elohim of my father, the Elohim of Abraham, the fear of Isaac, had been for me, truly now you would have sent me away empty. Elohim has seen my affliction and the toll of my pain, and last night he judged. And Laban answered and said to Jacob, the daughters are my daughters, and the sons are my sons, and the flocks are my flocks. Ye, all which you see, it is mine and my daughters. What can I do to these today, or to their sons whom they have borne? Verse 44. And now come, let us cut a covenant, you and me, and let it be a witness between you and me. And Jacob took a stone and set it upon as a memorial. And Jacob said to his brothers, gather stones. And they took stones, and they made a memorial pillar. And Laban called it the heap of the testimonial, and Joseph called it, and Jacob, not Joseph, and Jacob called it as a Hebrew Gilead. And Laban said, the heap is a witness between you and between me today. So we called its name Gilead, which means heap of testimony. And Mizpath, for he said, may Yah watch between you and me, for we are hidden when we are out of the night, each from his neighbor. Verse 30. If you will not afflict my daughters, and if you will not take my wives above my daughters, no man is with us. Behold, Elohim is a witness between you and between me. And Laban said to Jacob, behold, this heap, and behold the pillar of which I have said, or set between you and I. This heap is a witness, and the pillar is a testimonial. As for me, I will not pass over this heap to you. And for you, you will not pass over this heap, and this pillar for evil to no more. I will not pass over this heap, and this pillar for evil to me. Verse 53. And Elohim of Abraham, Elohim of Nahar, Elohim of their father, let judge between us. And Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. And Jacob sacrificed a sacrifice on the mountain, and called the name of his brothers to eat bread. And they ate bread, and lodged in lodged on the mountain. And Laban rose up early in the morning and kissed his sons and his daughters and blessed them. And Laban went away and returned to his own place. And now is chapter 31. And for chapter 33, we're going to read the first 2 verses. And Jacob went on his way, and the cherubims of Elohim met him. And when he saw them, Jacob said, "This is the camp of Elohim." And he called the name of that place Mahanaim. And that's it. That is the Torah reading for this week. If we can get started on reading next week's Torah as well. Next week's will be Genesis 32, verse 4 to 36:43. If you're reading the half Torah this week also, the half Torah is Hosea 12:13 to 14 and Hosea 10. And the Gospel New Covenant reading would be John 1:41 to 51. All right, everybody, thank you for reading the important Torah with me for this Sabbath. Let's get a head start on reading next week's as well. But this is the time to read it, study it, bring up questions, post comments below, and praise Yah. I pray you have a blessed Sabbath this day, and Yah be with you. Thanks for watching, and shalom, shalom.
Torah Life Ministries come out of the world. Messiah people seek the truth.